to sports talk in Chicago, and they would remind the listeners that their GM says your audience changes every 15 minutes. You can't keep on the same thing and keep going, because if you've been on this more than 15 minutes, most of these people don't know where you started.
Right. That's what Chris told me when he said it's called setting the table. That every time you gotta, this is who I am, this is what you're listening to this station, and this is what we're talking about, and this is who the guest is.
Yeah.
And I know when people listen to the whole show, it seems redundant, but I guess we tune it out, but it's just how we have to.
Yeah, if you've only got 20 minutes of drive time, you probably only heard it once.
So what are you doing for the feature segments?
So on the intro part, we're talking some curriculum trends from 2024.
Okay.
The headlines, I'm going to use actually something that came out this morning with the school shooting in Madison, was that there is a mastermind that was arrested looking to do multiple things.
Yeah, they have been talking to her.
And then move that into Manitou Elementary being evacuated twice this week.
Okay.
And talk about school safety with that, what that looks like. Then we get into feature one, the school choice piece that the president wants to get out for everybody. Talk a little bit about what that looks like in terms of competition in the Pikes Peak region for students to be in your district versus others.
Okay, and you can refer to people back to the last week's show with Parth and Jill.
Yep.
That they can get it on the Facebook or on our podcast if they want to. This is sort of part two.
Yep.
Of it. So, okay, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm glad I did this because I'm just feeling wiped out.
Are you gonna talk on at all?
No, I'm out of here. I'm just putting the camera on and.
Okay, gotcha.
And
are you gonna leave your computer and then I'll edit it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Do it. I'll be back. I'm gonna run up to the Cairo.
Oh,
chiropractic
right.
adjustment, and then I'll come back at the end of the.
Cool.
The end of the show. Let's plug this in. And the first segment I told you was 6 minutes, not 7, because we have this thing that comes in. So, and you know your timer here?
Yep.
Are you familiar with it?
Sure am.
Okay. Well, it might be different than the board you have at your other radio station. Okay.
Also, quick radio etiquette thing. Probably important. Talk this far away from the mic. It's like 2 fingers, no more than that. I can give you hand signals. This means 5 minutes. This means 2 minutes. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Sick. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3.
And you'll see him. You'll see him in there. Okay. Thanks. Have a great show.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Enjoy. Remember, radio's about having fun.
Yes, it is.
We want to hear you having fun.
You got it.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Peak, where we say the quiet stuff out loud. Folks, this is Rick Stevens. I am guest hosting this week for the Watchman Hein Goldman. He's, taking a little bit of time off today, and you are listening to AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer. For everything The Peak, including all of our podcasts, you can go to our website at thepeak.news. You can also check us out. We are Facebook Live right now. We are The Peak News Media. Or If you are out there on YouTube at The Peak News, hey, thanks for checking out today's show. The Peak News is brought to you by, I'm going to go with FRS Financial Group today. I might have a little interest in that one, so we're going to start with that one. Today, we are a truth-telling, First Amendment defending broadcast and internet news source for those citizens in the Pikes Peak region. We do, ladies and gentlemen, invite you to join us as that citizen journalist, as that tech, as that intern, that guest, that sponsor. You can get all of the info for that on our website, www.thepeak.news. And you can also find us on your favorite podcasting site. Just search for The Peak News. Well, folks, today we are on that education side of life. This is our Education Thursday. We're going to talk about all kinds of different things through today's show. We're going to talk about some curriculum trends. We're going to talk about some of those school safety issues that we have seen come up in that Madison, Wisconsin part of the world, as well as some of the things that have happened right here in our own backyard in Manitou this past week. We're going to talk a little school choice. We have with us in studio Jason Jorgenson, our D11 school board member, around for what I'm told is basically part 2 of the education series here. Last week we got to have Parth and Jill on. This is kind of part 2. We're going to talk a little bit of D11. Jason, welcome in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And we're also going to kind of end the day today on the show talking about training up a child and the parents' involvement in that. Because Jason, you and I'm almost ready to say we're kind of twins-ish.
In a way.
We both spent time in the world of education. We both hold a master's in curriculum and instruction. We both left that world and went to the world of finance. So there's a whole lot, I believe, we've got in common today that we're going to be able to talk about here.
It's going to be fun.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, we're going to actually start here, folks, with that first little segment today on those curriculum trends that have defined 2024. And most of you are probably not going to be surprised by any of the things that come up on here. I know for a fact there are plenty of these that, and Jason, I'm going to guess for you is probably similar. These are not new things that have been brought up before in that curriculum world. These are not things that there have been discussions about before, that this is the first time ever. We're seeing different things coming through here, and that number one trend, according to EduWeek, which is actually an education research journal, is the religion in schools debate heating up. You know, it's we saw it in October, we saw it in November, we saw it even all the way back to the summer, where different states have said, you know what, it's all right, go ahead and put that Bible back in the classroom. The Supreme Court has said, perfectly fine to use that as long as you're basically not proselytizing with it, right? It's perfectly fine to study from that academic perspective. The Texas State Board of Education said we're going to actually include Bible stories in the elementary school reading curriculum. And as a former teacher, even though I taught high school and at the college levels, I don't have a problem with that. What say you, Jason, if you put your old teacher hat on?
You know, as a former science teacher, we taught about topics that, you know, related to that, and I think the pendulum's always swinging, and so it's good to see it swinging back this way to have some more expanded thought.
Yes. Well, folks, we've got all kinds of these different fun pieces that we can get into right here on the Peak. We'll be right back in just a moment. Yes. All right. every week. Nah, I'm usually not live. I record Wednesdays, gets played on Saturdays. Cardio.
Do you find a good bit of referrals come in through your radio show?
A few.
Yeah.
It generates right now about $1,500 a month. So
Okay. That's cool.
not bad.
Yeah. I always wonder about that. Different forms of marketing.
And the fun part with that is I do it most weeks. I actually have a guest on from somewhere in the community. So I call it Money Matters. And we just talk about everything with your money. So I got a tax guy that comes in, a state attorney that comes in,
Yeah.
my mechanic comes in, talks about how to do stuff on your car yourself.
Yeah, that's cool. So next up we got Manitou. Fire safety stuff.
Yep.
Perfect. Wow. 4 days to make a donut. Dad's donuts.
Okay. Who makes it better than Dad?
That's right. So maybe I'll mention in this next segment that we just saw some vendors at our school board convention that these fire safety monitors now that we can put in bathrooms can detect the difference between THC, smoke, vaping,
Wow.
and they're two-way where if a student said help, it like signals over to the office.
Oh, that's awesome.
So just like technology coming
Yeah.
to help with safety
That's
is going to be pretty cool. So we can
absolutely.
maybe touch on some of that cool tech trends that are coming.
Yep.
So it'd be pretty wild to determine between all three of those things. I don't know how it does it.
That's a major technology right there.
Not just an intercom, it's a big brother listening.
Welcome back to the Peak News. Thanks for joining us on our Thursday Education Day. Rick Stevens here, guest hosting for the Watchman, Heim Goldman. Getting a little R&R, if the truth be told, on an eye. He had a little eye issue that he got worked on. Today we've got some headlines here, folks. We're going to talk about some of those. One national, a couple local that we're going to talk about here with Jason Jorgenson. And then, Jason, we're going to get into a little bit about what D11 is seeing in this world, because we're going to talk some school safety. There's been a little school safety issue that we've seen nationally this week.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah, the interesting thing out there in Madison, Wisconsin, if you haven't paid attention, there was a school shooting at a private Christian school earlier this week. So that debate now again, the flames get turned up once more. Safety, 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 safety. And I know one of those things, because I've taught in that private sector before, you don't always have the same sort of resources that you do in the public sector. There was no SRO, there's no school resource officer there. There was no, metal detectors going through the doors. It's as a Midwest kid, it's sleepy little Madison and what really is going to go wrong in Madison. So I think sometimes there's that Pollyanna approach in some of those smaller schools as well.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Now, along with that, though, there was a piece that came out this morning on Fox News, and it's been kind of distributed to some other places out there as well, that she wasn't necessarily thinking about all of this on her own, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was a 20-year-old in California who had said, yes, she and I had been planning some things. There was a quote-unquote mastermind, if you will, behind part of this. Now I know what it looked like in my students when they were, 14, 15, 16 and writing out different things. I'm going to guess you could tell the voice of your students in their writing. I'm not sure I had a lot of 15-year-olds could have written a 6-page manifesto on their own.
No, I think they were more worried about if their shoes matched their laces or their makeup.
Yes, yes, exactly. So the fact that we find out that there is somebody out there who is influencing this, not a surprise to us, probably shouldn't be a surprise to the listeners as well.
Just a further need to, check your students and your children on their devices and make sure that you're parenting them well through all the years of their adolescence.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we bring that back a little bit more locally here, 2 times this week in Manitou Springs, they've had to evacuate the elementary school. And it's one of those interesting things. You're like, well, why are we evacuating elementary schools over depending on the headline you read, the health precautions, because that could ultimately mean just about anything, right? In our world today, I saw Gavin Newsom doing some health precaution things, but today's not the political day, so we're not gonna talk about those. But that concept of the evacuate for health precautions. Now in Manitou, what we're learning is that it was basically the same thing twice. Earlier this week on Tuesday, you had Manitou Springs Elementary School basically given an evacuation order because there were staff experiencing coughing, watery eyes, and just all these different things, trying to figure out where it came from. There were some swabs taken. The last I saw, they hadn't come back with what it really was, but they let the kids go on Tuesday. It happened again today. Same sort of thing. It's coughing, it's watery eyes. We get outside, it starts to get better and go away. Now, I am not a detective in any sense of the term. Maybe a science teacher has that science hat on, doing a little bit of the detective work, but my guess is that there may have been a child who got something through the ventilation system and
Some
went,
sort of irritant. Yeah.
let's see what this does through here. On Tuesday they were talking about unknown substances. Was speaking with a gentleman today, said they're kind of certain, not positive yet, the fire department discussion on that, and the hazmat is probably something similar to mace that was perhaps distributed through the ventilation system. My question is, where are the kids getting mace? I'm going to guess they're not out buying it themselves.
Could be that, or could be some of that Axe body spray, right?
Well, that's more at the junior high level, I think. That's not exactly the
There you
middle
go.
school kids
Yeah.
on that. But that does then bring up the discussion that I was having with this gentleman in that realm of school safety, because he works with fire departments in Manitou and all over the Pikes Peak region. and he was asking that question, what happens when you've got somebody who's substituting, say, in multiple districts, and District A over here, the fire alarm gets pulled, that means everybody's up and outside into the specific area. But District B, it means lock your door and wait for the announcement. District C, it may mean something totally different.
Yeah.
How do you guys in District 11 work with that? And I also want to touch on, you were telling me some really cool stuff there during the break about some technology you guys just
sure.
saw. So talk to the listeners a little bit about that, Jason.
Yeah, so we just had a school board convention for all of the school board members in Colorado State. And, there's a vendor area where people are showing the technology that might be applicable to a school district and what their concerns are for the, little foreseeable future. And there was a couple of vendors on security and detectors. And I stopped up to one of them and he mentioned this smoke detector can delineate between fire smoke, THC content, vaping smoke, and then it also had a two-way responder.
Wow.
Where the student could say, help, and it sent an alarm message to the front office for that exact bathroom and spot.
That's
wild.
amazing. My nose can detect amongst the various types, but
Sure.
to have an actual
Technology.
device and technology that will do that is just one of those things that never ceases to really amaze me when we look at all of these different pieces, the different technologies that we can bring into the school to ultimately make it safer for the students, make it safer for the faculty and the staff and the administration. Because if we put our educator hats back on, I'm pretty sure that you got the same kind of training I did. That bottom rung of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is that safety part.
Yeah.
And we can actually do that sort of thing. So what are some of those pieces in District 11 where you guys have some different, or maybe, hey, guys, you might want to check this out, some pretty cool safety things that we do here?
Yeah, so, what we just mentioned was pretty neat, so I definitely got that back to something that we can consider as a board moving into the future. But we've spent, I think it's $11 million we have earmarked for upgrading our security vestibules, so having that kind of two-door entrance into our buildings. So that's happening at a few of our campuses that don't have that yet. Just making sure that we're vetting the people that are kind of just trying to get into the building and saying, okay, who are you here for? What's your purpose?
Yes.
Not to big brother you or to overregulate you, but we don't want anybody just walking in and coming into a building not knowing what their intent is with our students in those buildings. So that's one thing we're investing in, and then we're also looking at a lot of it is you can have all these cool tools and technologies, but if you don't have the practice with them and the substitutes and the
Yes.
staff and how that all integrates with the crisis charts and all that, we're part of the governing side of it as a director, but I know that our team is looking at making sure that all of our staff know exactly what to do when the real thing hopefully never does, but
Right.
when it could arise.
Right, and back in my teaching world, I was part of a couple of different lockdowns, and we knew exactly what to do,
Yep.
when to do it, and ultimately that's what is there to keep the kids safe.
Absolutely.
Folks, you are listening to The Peak. This is Rick Stevens. We are up against that break. We will be right back, continuing to talk to Jason Jorgenson right here on The Peak.
So we got 3.5 minute break here.
Yep. I rolled over my headphones,
Oh no.
and then I was like, I can't move. 'Cause if I move, I'm going to jerk this totally out.
Yeah, that school choice discussion will be interesting.
Yeah. And I want to get to, because there's a part in here where it talks about voters rejecting school choice on 3 state ballot measures,
I mean, we did here with Amendment 80.
but we didn't, because it wasn't school choice.
It was putting it into the Constitution.
Well, but not the way, so as part of the homeschool community, we didn't like the way it was worded.
I heard that. I heard a couple different ways. You look at it in 2 different ways of like,
Yeah.
all right, what are they trying to sneak in here?
Right. So, now, Had it been worded a little bit differently, we'd have been okay.
Yeah.
But it said that the parents get to direct, but the children choose. And if there's a discrepancy, the state comes in to tell you what.
Yeah.
And that's the part.
Yeah. Yeah. As the parents' primary role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did. I've heard that issue before, Rick. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing you probably did.
So,
Now, do you know how long we've had actual choice in Colorado? Because I know we've had it since I started here in 2007.
I want to say since the 90s. See if I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, we call it since the 90s. Don't give it a date.
I mean, it's been a while. We've been
Yeah.
a choice state for a long time.
Hey, I know that guy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. There was a Gazette article back in January of this year celebrating the 30th anniversary of school choice in Colorado, so 1994.
All right. Yeah, we
So-
could talk about that whole, hey, as a free market capitalist, I'm all for choice. All
Yeah.
for choices.
So it was an act in 1990, but it was implemented in the 1994-1995 school year.
All right. No, we would not, folks. This is Rick Stevens, your guest host this week on The Peak on our Education Day. We are in studio with our guest for the hour, Jason Jorgenson. We are talking all things education here. And Jason, we're going to talk a little school choice because that's something that our president-elect has really hit the world hard with, and that's he wants to see that concept of school choice expanded across the country. But we've had that in Colorado for quite a while, haven't we?
Yeah, we have since 1994, in fact.
Yeah, and that's as a free market capitalist, which I am, which I know that you are, choice is a good thing, right?
Hey, choice drives free market capitalism. You got it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now our president-elect has basically, come out to say he wants families to be able to use those public dollars, right? Those dollars that are going to the school districts that we live in, that are coming through our property taxes, to pay for private schools as well, in that, K-12 agenda, if you will, that he's got out there. But even if we just pull that back a little bit and look at what we're doing here in Colorado with that school choice, if I live in Monument, I can send my kids to a District 11 school. Or if I am in part of the D11 district for a particular school, I can actually switch to a different school
And yeah,
in the district as well. Same thing
we see the
works.
effects of that in D11.
Yeah, and the same thing works for your charters, all of those different parts through there. What ultimately, if we look at this sort of a thing, whether it's through the dollars actually following the kid, we've seen things like tax credit scholarships that have been proposed. Hey, I'm paying this into my state taxes, but I'm sending my kid over here, so we're going to reduce, your actual
Or I'm
tax burden
homeschooling
kind
my
of stuff.
student, and
Right.
my property taxes don't do anything, and I pay for all those things out of pocket.
Yep.
For
Yep,
those homeschool
and-
families out there.
And as a homeschool dad, I feel that.
There you go.
I do feel that. Although I also have some thoughts on I don't mind my tax money going to the school district because that also has to do with my property values and all that fun stuff in there as
And
well.
good governance. of the
Yes.
districts.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So if we look at that competitive landscape that we've got right now already in Colorado, what does that look like for District 11 and even the other schools in the Pikes Peak region, but in particular for D11 in trying to get in kids to our particular schools?
Yeah, we've seen a really big change. So when I first was elected, we were looking at losing kids drastically every year. The pandemic didn't help with that.
Right.
But then we saw, okay, we've got 30,000-ish kids in D11 boundary, and about 10,000 of them choose to go somewhere else because of the choice model offered here. Well, we hired a superintendent a few years back and have gone through a different approach of thinking outside the box, which we love.
Right.
Of saying, okay, well, how do we offer a portfolio of schools?
Mhm.
And so we're bringing in charter schools. We just recently brought in Thomas McLaren, which is an excellent
Yes.
K-12 school back in the old the East Junior High building or Irving Junior High building.
Yes.
So we're knowing that parents have the choice, and instead of just going, oh well, let's just focus on our public ed schools. How can we provide a portfolio of schools, a portfolio of choice for our parents to look at that says, hey, keep those kids in D11. We've got these great programs, great charters if you want that, online school if you want that, great public ed schools if you want that. We're trying to provide that all.
Absolutely, and you guys also, if I remember correctly, have some different we'll call them homeschool outreach programs out there as well. That for the folks that I talk to often as a homeschool dad, they're like, oh no, I would never send my kid to a public school. There's actually some pretty good enrichment stuff out there that folks can do, right?
Yeah, we have actually. I was just on there this week because I had a parent of a parent in D11, so a grandparent, looking at helping her daughter homeschool their son. And I said, we have a whole page on d11.org that is all about homeschooling, paperwork you need, the programs, links to helpful pieces of information at like the library, and so we do want to support parents if that's their choice, and how can we help them, and then how can we ultimately offer enrichments to help those kiddos as well.
Absolutely awesome. Well, folks, there's that bumper music once again. I'm Rick Stevens. You're listening to The Peak on AM 1460, FM 101, The Answer. Coming up after that short break, we're going to be talking about some of the things going on in D11. We'll be right back.
That was good. I appreciate you letting us brag a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of those things. It's weird because when I started teaching, it was homeschool and public school are total adversaries.
Right.
It has changed in the last 25 years
Oh,
to,
yeah.
We can actually do some outreach here.
Right.
We're already getting the dollars. We can provide services.
Right.
And provide the services that homeschool parents want, need, make it easier on them, that you don't have to go find a co-op or an online class
Yeah.
or those things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's going to be fun seeing how that improves over the next little bit even.
Yeah. I'm looking at the bumper music coming back in. It's Rock This Town. think that's a good.
There you go.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Stevens sitting in for Heim Goldman, the Watchman. We are about to rock this town with Jason Jorgenson, one of our D11 board members. Because, Jason, there's something rocking D11 a little bit right now.
Yeah, we've been rocking for about a week with this recent decision.
Yes. Folks, if you haven't seen, although I'm going to guess most of us probably have seen it, read it somewhere, that the D11 board voted to end the master's agreement with the teachers union. So I'm going to start with this. Jason, what does that actually mean? You voted to end the master agreement. Does that mean there's nothing that's ever going to happen again? We're getting rid of everybody. It's all merit-based now. We're doing, everybody's gone, and yada, yada, yada. Is that the actual thing that it means, or is it something a little bit different?
Yeah, it's going to be that different piece. It's, there's a lot of stories and rumors and things going out about, we're seeing the emails, and we've been seeing them since the choice was made, and even before that, of just, you don't support teachers, and, you're rocking their world with distrust, and they're going to leave, and it's just, I just don't see that happening. This was an agreement with the private corporation, the Colorado Springs Education Association, that is accountable not to the taxpayer,
Right.
not to the voter,
Right.
unlike the board, who gets elected every, 2 or 4 year cycles.
Yes.
And so, I think that if you want to talk about accountability, which this board has talked about, of, hey, we're accountable for the decisions we make as a governing body, and we see the constraints that this master agreement has had on the district for over 50 years.
Right.
We've seen in the past where it's been difficult to get changes done, even though people go, advocates for keeping it, say, let's just come to the table like adults. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's that one side tries and the other side just tries to keep getting what they want, and it's
Right.
just hard to work with. So
Well, the first thing as the business guy, as the guy that has been in the public school districts, that's been in the private school places, the first thing I looked at was the agreement was done in 1968. Oh my goodness, things have changed a little bit, and I think we need, at least at the very least, even if we've rewritten it word for word, we've got to have today's agreement, because there are words that didn't exist in 1968 that are part of the education world now.
that's right. And if you look at like the bargaining process, each side only gets to bring 2 issues to the bargaining table each year.
Oh my goodness.
And there's some articles that are open every year, but we talk about, just make something new and collaborate with something brand new that's, both people agree upon. And it's just not going to happen when you get to pick 2 things a year and you fight tooth and nail to maybe get one of those.
Right. And I'm going to I'm going to put my teacher hat on here a little bit and say, in that process, and you've used the word more than once here, in that collaborative process, because we're not competing for what goes in. We need to collaborate on what goes there, and that's exactly it. It's that, what is that guiding piece of everything we're putting here, and it is the student, right? And we might disagree on how best to make this work, but ultimately we need both sides coming together to say, how are we going to make this work best for the kids?
Right. And it's not a dispute with teachers, it's not a dispute with union teachers. This was just a decision about this master agreement and the agreement we had between district school board and this private corporation.
Yeah, and in that process then, in that process where we're coming together and we're going to create a new master agreement, what, if you can give us a sneak peek a little bit behind there, what are some of those things that both sides are going to have to do?
Yeah, so I'll clarify, we're not going to create a new master agreement. We don't want to have anything where we're tied to another corporation that's not accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're looking at doing is what every other school district surrounding us and in the county has done, which is operate under the idea of an employee handbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I've mentioned this numerous times of we've always talked about our employees as groups. Okay, we have our support professionals here, we have our certified teachers here, we have our admin and exec pros over here. We're all staff for the mission of helping students succeed.
Right.
So let's have a employee handbook for all of them. We're all one big team, and Jill mentioned it last week on the show if you caught that. We're all one team. We're one body moving towards helping each student that comes through our door succeed. So that employee handbook will be that piece that's going to incorporate your given pieces and protections that are already provided to you by federal and state law, and then your things that are going to be laid out by each group of, here's your protections, here's your duty-free lunch, here's your planning period, here's how we're going to protect your workspace and your plan time. And none of those things are going away. So if you're hearing that we're cutting pay and taking away your plan periods, that's just that's not true. So.
Yeah, the last I remember, you got to volunteer to give up the planning period if you were covering somebody else's class, but you also got paid
That's right.
to do that.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I know a lot of faculty do hold sacred, is that time away during their day to be able to breathe. So it is very good to hear that. Oh no, we're not going to go with an 8-period day, and you're teaching 8 of 8.
Right, and I actually remember teaching science, and I taught in District 2, and there in my first couple of years, they did change the schedule where I went from 2 50-minute planning periods to, I believe, a 1 time 70-minute planning period. And it's like, oh, we're losing 2 plan periods. It's like, well, we're really only losing 30 minutes.
Right.
But if that 30 minutes is to help students succeed, and you just got to look at it and hey, what's best for kids, and collaborate where you can. And if you're told this is what we're doing, then okay, how can I still help kids with what parameters you're giving me to work in?
Exactly. Having I'll throw that teacher hat back on again. The way that I always looked at it was, what can I do today to make these kids better than they were yesterday in whatever the subject matter is I'm talking about.
And when you look at education like that as a professional, pretty sure the district's going to take care of you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Pretty sure you
absolutely.
don't need a master agreement to
No.
defend you if that's what your main goal is, to take care of kids.
Absolutely, and that's actually, I'll go back to the classroom. That's one of the things I used to talk to kids about when we were talking about the history, if you will, of businesses and how unions started and why unions started. For anybody who's ever read the book The Jungle, you know why we've got unions, why we've got an FDA, why we've got regulations in there. And in that time, that was exactly what was needed, but it's 55 years later.
Well, and teachers have choice.
Yes,
Just
yes.
like students have choice, teachers have choice. And we're seeing that change in demographics with younger workers now. We're not seeing career teachers anymore that are like my grandma, or maybe what you've seen of, okay, we're 35-year educators.
Right.
We've got young teachers that are graduating. Maybe they're doing it for 5 to 7 years. Maybe they're moving out of because of a military spouse.
Yep.
So how do we work with what we got and know the landscape as it's changing and be nimble and be able to innovate, and that's another reason for this change.
Exactly, and that's one of those things, if we just go back to a couple of segments ago, in that school choice world, that's another one of those things that we're trying to use to make D11 the choice for folks to actually pick.
Right, yeah, that's the goal.
Awesome. There are a couple of other places and things we could kind of go with through here, but I want you to do this. If you could put on that old teacher hat of yours, and you were sitting here talking about what should go into the handbook, what are a couple things you would want in there? Because I can tell you what I would want in there, but I want to hear what Jason would love to see.
I think we have a good starting point with looking at what the master agreement provided, what state law provides. I really would like to see, if we got teachers staying after school for IEP meetings, things like that, to continue paying for those. I remember having to take out plan periods or stay a couple hours after
Yes.
school for IEP meetings, and sometimes they were paid, sometimes they weren't. It depended on what the school budget had, but I'd like us to, protect that time of hey, if you're going to stay, we're going to pay. The duty-free lunch, I'd love to see longer lunch periods for our kids, but that's not something that goes into a handbook.
There's a certain length of time in the day we've got too.
There's a wish list, right? Everybody
course.
has a wish list. So, and then just providing that time. There's not really a way to guarantee it, but I'd love for collaboration to be effective, and for PDs that we have for our teachers to be effective for them. Again, can't guarantee that, but just, getting that collaborative piece of, hey, what are you really looking for to grow in, and how can we provide that training for you to make it worth your time?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that's one thing. I've got a buddy of mine, Bob Felice, who has been in to some of the D11 stuff, very heavy up into D49, and one of his things, because he full disclosure, he hired me at Lewis Palmer, he hired me at Vista Ridge. One of his big pieces was your professional development needs to matter to you. It's not what I think is important, it's what you need for the classroom, and that's a huge thing for teachers.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's one of those things where we get to, for lack of a better term, empower the teacher to be better at what they do. And one of those things, and I'll put that business spin back on it. A couple of my favorite business books, Built to Last, Good to Great, both from Jim Collins, and it's getting the right people on the bus, in the right seats, doing what they do best. And if there's something they don't do best, it's not we're going to force you to get better at what you're not any good at. It's we're going to make you better at what you're already good at.
That's right.
And find somebody else to fill in that gap with something that's their strength as well.
That's right. Strengthening your strengths. I've heard that somewhere else of being an effective tool for a team.
Absolutely. And as a guy who basically was in the system when all of the PLC, professional learning communities, were part of it,
Yeah.
huge part of folks being able to be together, iron sharpening iron, if you will, through that process. Well, Jason, I want to say thank you for everything so far. We got one more segment to go. We're going to talk about that parental involvement in the school world when we come back. And of course, we'll also complete the broadcast with Just a Guy, Jim Miller. We'll be right back.
Okay, so Jim's rant is 2 minutes and 34 seconds.
Okay.
So you gotta be out by 4:55-ish.
All right.
Closer to the 4:50 side than the 4:55-ish.
All right.
Sweet.
Cool.
Sweet.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably speak to our policy AKB that has our parent partnership. But yeah, it's about parents being involved and
Yep.
reading with your kids every night and
Yeah.
looking through their backpack and
Make sure you know what's going on in their lives.
yeah.
It comes in handy. I actually had, it's one of the things I used to do was make 4 what I call good news calls a day
Yeah.
to parents during my planning period. And I called, one parent talking about the kid, hey, love him in class, he's interactive, we do all
Yeah.
these different things. He came in the next day and said, Mr. Stevens, what did you say to my mom?
Why'd you call my mom?
And I said, why? He goes, she took me to lunch yesterday.
That's awesome. That's fun.
I'm like, yeah, that's good.
All right.
Also, do you know how that little timer thing on the side works?
Yep.
Sick. Cool. Just making sure.
Yeah, I was just a little off on the last one.
Sorry. Probably
That's it.
chatted a bit too long.
Nah.
How long have you been an advisor?
Let's see, this is 24, so I am actually starting my 13th year.
13. Okay. Cool. About half of that.
So
Finishing my 6th year.
2007, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, and 38. 10, 11, 11, 12, and 49. 5 years, 5 failed MLOs for teacher pay.
Yeah.
And sometimes I go, so I voted myself a pay raise and left.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I just wanted to be home with my kids more. and just had our second, and I was like, no, I just want to be home.
Yeah.
It's important to me. So.
That's right, folks. You better listen to the radio. We are the Peak right here on 1460 AM, 101.1 FM, The Answer. And in our final segment today, we're going to go a little bit closer to home, shall we say, Jason? And that's the idea that as parents, I have 6. You've got how many?
Got 4 and 1 in the oven.
All right, so between us, we've got basically 11 in there. It's a very important piece for that parent to be involved in their child's education. That the idea of being called to train up a child still exists in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. Whether you read out of the Bible or not, you know the importance of it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that's that big piece here in this last little feature, folks, is I'll call it the encouragement, Jason, that encouragement of those parents to be involved in one way, shape, or form in their child's life. It doesn't matter if it's private school, public school, home school, whatever the case may be, that parental involvement is probably the number one indicator as to whether or not that child's going to succeed in their education, isn't it?
It is, and I think, we've seen, I don't know about you and your education journey, but teaching, I just saw that, parents really, they dropped their kids off and they checked out,
Yes.
I mean, and I appreciate the trust they put in me as an educator, and I know all of our teachers do, but we also need you at home to be educating your child and, working on sight words with your kindergartner and, reading through books with your second grader who's still learning how to read. It's just, you can't just say the school will take care of that.
Right. That was one of those things that I always used to kind of throw out there to parents when we did that open house parent night early in the semester, was that my job is to help them understand whatever it is in my classroom. And I'm going to involve you guys as much as possible because my job is not to do the educating. You do the educating. You've hired me to help facilitate that piece of it. And I tried to make sure parents were as involved as possible. I'm going to guess somewhere out there are probably some parents still listening because I've not been in a classroom in 12, 13 years who are still going, yes, and you sent way too many emails to us. You over-communicated everything. But I was okay with that. Sure. And that was one of those ways that, I kind of like to bring those parents in. I was telling you a story earlier during the break there of the good news calls I like to make, because parents don't always get the good news calls,
right.
But like to throw some kudos out there. Hey, your kid's doing really well at this. Where I had the student who went, Mr. Stevens, what'd you say to my mom? Why? Because she took me to lunch. And I think as teachers, those are things we ought to be able to do, is to help continue to build that parent-child relationship as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as a parent myself, wanting to know, what's my kid struggling at? Looking at the, middle of year stuff for my kindergartner just yesterday, and she's struggling in decoding those sight words. It's like, okay, now I know what I'm working on.
Right.
But just seeing the help of having the parents-teacher conference in October and going, okay, my little kindergartner needs to work on her sight words, and then starting to actually work on them with her, and seeing now that she can go through a flashcard of 25 sight words, and she knows all of them.
Yeah.
And now we're on the next deck, and then on the next deck, and so that little bit of 5 minutes of, I don't know if I should say this, putting your phone down.
Yes, putting that phone down.
And sitting with your child at the table and just going through their sight words, or, looking at what they're doing with their backpack. It makes a world of difference to them. They love doing it. They start asking you, hey, can we do more of this? And, it's important.
It is, and ultimately that kind of cements that school, parent, teacher relationship across the boards, where maybe we're not being thought of as the adversary anymore in that education world, but we are in fact that partner coming alongside there to say thank you for trusting us to help educate your child.
Yeah, and I'll put a quick plug in here for our policy AKB, which is our parent partnership policy in District 11, where we are working as a team for that student, right? Parent, teacher, responsibilities for everybody, and getting that student to succeed in all the ways possible.
Awesome, awesome. So folks, as a parent, as that former teacher, please, please get involved.
Please.
If you can do anything at all, make sure you sit down each night with your kids.
Read a book.
And yeah, read that book, whatever you need to be doing in there. Make sure that your kid is doing what they need to do. Every once in a while, you might need to look through that backpack, right? Not saying anything happened this week that a student may have brought to school in someplace up the hill a little bit. But yeah, be there, be that parent. Make sure that you are involved, because it not only is the best for the kid, it is so helpful to those classroom teachers.
Yes.
You know, it's that
Support
piece.
your teachers.
Exactly, exactly. And I got to tell you, as that former teacher in my classroom, that was the best part. When the parents were there to go, hey, we've built this great relationship, and my kid was a knucklehead. I'm going to support you in that because I know you're trying to look out for him.
Right.
You know, that's that really, really nice part when you can come in there together and say, okay, what is it that we can all do coming in here together, making sure that we've got that opportunity to, if I look at it from that business side, to produce the best kid that's going to be out there that will truly represent what we want to call a blank type of graduate, whether that's 11, D11, D38, D49, whatever, that really represents the best of us.
Yeah.
Folks, we are ready now to talk a little bit amongst ourselves. We'll be right back right after this.
Did you miss that phase out?
I did. I understand.
She got a rant coming up.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Folks, I've got to close up today's show first with a big thank you to Jason Jorgenson for joining us today. District 11 board member. Thank you, Jason. Thank you all for joining us on the Peak News. We absolutely hope you are enjoying what we would call the hyper-local news talk. We're also hoping that folks, you might even consider joining us as part of that volunteer news team here as citizen journalists, possibly as techs, interns, or hey, maybe you even want to be a Peak Partner sponsor. Also a big thank you out there to the Watchman, Heim Goldman, for inviting me in today to host the show while he's getting a little R&R on that eye. He had some work taken care of today. A big thank you as well to all of Salem Media, the Peak News sponsors. Folks, we are here Monday through Thursday. Not Friday, Monday through Thursday. So we will actually be back again next week. Heim will be back in here. The nice, fun part of that is he's kicking off a new week with all of our regular Monday stuff. Stay tuned for the Larry Elder Show. That is coming up next on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer. This is The Peak, where we say the quiet stuff out loud. I'm Rick Stevens. We are here for such a time as this. God bless everybody.
All right.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'll go with, for two guys that don't do this every day, we did all right.
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
So I'll give you a quick shop question. What's the biggest issue your clients are coming with today?
I think they're worried about Social Security with even some of the stuff Trump's been saying.
Yeah.
As I have a lot of conservative clients,
Yeah.
they're like, okay, even Trump is saying like, it's like, you are fine if you're 67.
Right.
You're fine. You're fine if you're 62.
Yep.
I'm not fine.
That's exactly what I say.
Yeah.
I'm like, boomers, you guys are okay. Xers, we've never been okay. We know we've never been okay. We lived our lives as not okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And we're okay with that.
Yeah. And, I mean, I just hope Trump is a profound enough leader to actually have these hard conversations.
Yeah.
The sooner we can get this fixed, the less drastic the changes have to be.
Yep.
But he can't kick it down 4 years.
No.
He's got House and Senate and, executive branch. Like, you really be the profound leader and just further rock the world of the other side of the aisle and saying, look, we're going to tackle this.
Yep.
You guys are good just for me.
Cool. You're okay being the bad. You already labeled the bad guy.
Right.
Be the bad guy in this way and fix Social Security.
Yep. Be the best bad guy you can be.
Exactly. So yeah. How about you?